I accept you. I do accept you, Cheryl. You're accepted. Come back. It is time again to react to the actually autistic TikToks. I addicted at this point. I still don't have the app on my phone, so I probably wouldn't go as far as to say addicted.
With the autistic argument, there's always people who are like, yeah, no, I know that there are people who are really autistic, but there are people who are gonna fake it. Yeah, I know there are people who are really trans, but there are people who are gonna fake it. Even if there are, out of 100, even if there are 95 real autistic people, and 5 people are, I don't know, just faking it or something, it's like, nope, we can't provide resources or take it seriously because some people are messing it up. That makes no sense at all. That's like, that literally, like, people will literally say, no, we are not going to give trans resources because some people are going to lie about it. That's not being trans, then. They're not that's a criminal problem. That's like saying, we can't have teachers. Some of the adults are going to seriously traumatize and mess with the kids. That's not a teaching problem. That's a people are crazy problem. Fix that shit first. Yeah, that's what we're saying anyways. This isn't a, we can't have teachers. This is a, monitor the shit. If we watch people long enough, we would know, bro. Shut up.
I love them. TikTok just started playing something of somebody shouting. I don't know what it was, but like, I wasn't ready for it. Yeah, I love them. We've had them before, actually. I'll leave all of them linked down below in case you want to follow them if you do have the app downloaded. Or if not, you can still follow them on desktop, right? That's the thing. I completely agree. Yeah, it often is used as an argument to take resources away from people who actually need them. Like, oh no, but some people are gonna make it up. Like, who is? I want to know. And apparently it was a thing on TikTok of it being like a quirky trend of people faking autism or ADHD. I don't know. I don't know much about it. I'm too old. I don't know. No, I don't want to use that excuse. It's not an excuse to not know what's going on in the world. But still, I don't know what was going on. Apparently it was a thing. But generally out in the real world, like, it's a stigmatized thing. The reality of the world we're living in is that so many people who should be diagnosed are not diagnosed or are misdiagnosed or are told they can't be autistic because they made eye contact once, which is not accurate. It's not correct. The diagnostic criteria says abnormalities in eye contact as an example of one thing that you may have. It's not essential, and abnormalities can mean too much eye contact. It doesn't mean inability to make eye contact. And when so many medical professionals still believe that, when someone says they think they might be autistic, there's a pretty high chance they are, because so many people have not been diagnosed and have been left to feel like they have a different mental health condition, or they just have some unknown sort of mental health condition that doesn't really fit any sort of category, which is what I felt like. I just felt like I was a difficult person to manage, and like life was just hard work, and I wasn't really sure how much I really wanted to be here sometimes. It's nice now to know that I'm actually autistic. I think it's not an excuse to not offer people help just because some people might abuse it. I mean, what benefit do you think you're really gonna get? Do you think accommodations for autistic people are that good? I wish they were that good. What do you think we get? Chloe Hayden. Let's go, Chloe Hayden. Oh my gosh. I love it. The music's like, hell yeah, like really, really positive. And then it's like, arrest you. Oh my goodness. I've seen this quite a lot. Unfortunately, something came up on my Facebook a few weeks ago. I don't know who it was. I don't know who posted it. I was like, get me off this as soon as possible. Basically, some parents had filmed their daughter, probably around the age 7, 8 maybe, having a meltdown. It reminded me so much of my own meltdowns at that age. It was very, very painful to see. They'd even been like physical with her, and I think they like thrown her down onto a sofa, and they posted online. I'm like, if you're willing to post that, what on earth are you doing that you're not sharing with the entire internet? So weird. What is the mindset that makes you want to do that? And it was kind of like from like a place like, oh, I know lots of people are posting about autism awareness and posting all these things about how autistic people are beautiful and wonderful, but actually this is the reality of being a parent of an autistic child. I don't know. I feel like someone who does that, yeah, they need to be investigated. What on earth is going on there that you think that you have the right to do that? It's crazy. It's crazy, and it's such a violation. Imagine if people from school found it. I mean, it's not okay regardless, but imagine if future employers find it and it's private. I feel so grateful that I have parents who would never ever have done anything like that and tried so hard to protect me, and to some extent that is the reason why I didn't get a diagnosis. Horrible. I guess they're just wanting sympathy. Look, my child is actually awful. Like, I understand it can be difficult to parent any child, and parents are humans. I understand. I'm a parent myself. I would never ever share I don't even want to share positive things with my child on the internet. Even that feels like a violation. He can't consent to me sharing images, but like images of him like crying or shouting or having a bad day, it's almost like sharing naked pictures of your child. Like, what on earth? Do you really hate your child that much that you want to embarrass them like that? Do you feel like they're less human because of their diagnosis? And this is where maybe somebody being diagnosed isn't a great thing. Maybe it allows you in your mind to treat someone as less than human, or maybe that's just how you treat children, in which case you probably shouldn't be a parent. And then there were a lot of comments on it. I don't know why I stayed on it long enough to read some of the comments, but there were comments on it that were talking about how this is not a meltdown, this is just a tantrum. She just needs to learn, like, get off the internet, man. Ugh. Why does everyone always have to have an opinion? Like, sometimes just don't have an opinion. Maybe just go away and do your research and then form an opinion, or just maybe be like, this is not something I know an awful lot about. It was just a very not nice thing to see, and it stayed with me for a long time after watching it, and I'm really sorry if anybody had parents who were like that growing up. Okay, and on that infuriating note, we might all need a second to calm down and to take a deep breath. It's the perfect time to introduce the sponsor of today's video, which is Aura, the top mindfulness app that boasts 7 million users. Aura is currently saving my sleep and my sanity, which are unsurprisingly two things that are very interconnected. This weird thing was happening to me. I don't know if any of you have had this happen to you, where I wake up in a panic. I just have weird panicked thoughts that are like half formed. That's where Aura came along. So it's an all-in-one app for your well-being and your sleep, and it has absolutely loads on there. Relaxing stories, heaps and heaps of meditation, ASMR. It's kind of like having Spotify for well-being, and there's so many different coaches and therapists from all over the world, and they keep posting content on there, so there's loads. Now when I wake up in the middle of the night and I have this kind of panic, reach for my phone. Body scan meditations I absolutely love. You search body scan meditations on the app, or a story, or lots of different rain sounds, which are great. Particularly love the rain falling on a tent sound. That is where it's at, but there's all different rain sounds. You can throw in a bit of thunder if you want. There's cat purring ASMR as well, which I really like. When you sign up, you get to kind of customize your profile on there quite a bit. Say if you don't want CBT on there, you can deselect CBT. If you've been thinking about trying mindfulness, or if you've been having similar issues with sleep, this might be a good option for you. If you want to try Aura completely for free, I have a link for you. I'll leave it on screen. It's also in the description and in the pinned comment as well, so you can't miss it. And the first 500 people who use that link will also get 25% off. And thank you so much, Aura, for sponsoring what I'm trying to do here. It really makes a huge difference. And thank you so much to you for watching this and listening to what I had to say. And now I think it's time for us to go crawling back to another more chaotic app. My favorite Paige Leal, let's go. She says, I'm interested in hearing any advice. So let's see what she says and see if we have any advice.
I only teach dance on Thursdays once a week, and I have been since like last year. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But every Thursday, the entire day before I go to dance, is just, I'm so stressed. Like, it's 7 in the morning right now. I don't even leave for like another 8 hours. I just stress and cry the whole time. And it doesn't even make any sense, because I know kids, I'm good with kids. I also know dancing, and I've been a dance teacher for a while. But every time, my Thursday just gets absolutely obliterated, because I can't stop stressing about it, and I don't even know why. Well, it's Thursday now, and I also got so much more bad news for the last few days. And so I don't know what to do today to be okay.
I don't know, I can't watch people cry. I not want to cry myself. I'm just like, let me hug you. I don't know if you want a hug, probably not, but I know that feeling all too well. It's just like frustration with yourself as well, or feeling like why can't I just get on with it, you know, like why is it such a big deal? Like, there are times where I've thought about doing some sort of like volunteering opportunity, and I've applied through it and I've gone through it, and then I get to the end and I'm like, I can't finish the training, because I just know it will be expected of me to do this many hours per week on this day, and I will have to have that looming over me all week, and I know what a big impact that is going to have on me, and I just feel like I can't do it as a result. And it's so frustrating to feel like you're blocked from doing it, because I may enjoy it, I may meet some nice people. Why can't you just get on with it and do it? But I know it would like poison, no matter how much I like doing the thing, it would poison my whole week, and it would loom over me, and I just feel like it isn't worth it because of that. And that's really sad. For me, it's because of being a PDA, which I think I've seen in the title of some of Paige's TikToks. Maybe I'll have a look at one of those next. But she is considering that she's PDA, or is PDA, does fit the PDA profile as well. The obligations, man. The obligations and good mental health. It's very hard to get those things to fit nicely together, unfortunately, which can be really hard when you're trying to operate in this world. So I completely relate to how she's feeling, and I'm really appreciative of people, even though it makes me want to cry, I'm appreciative of people putting out their raw emotions like that and seeing that side of autism, because that's the side that we mask more than anything. I think that's the side that we cover up and we keep to ourselves, and we feel like we can't share. Yeah, I completely relate, and I wish I had some advice for it. I suppose my only advice would be trying to accept that about yourself, and then trying to ease the pressure on yourself and give yourself an easy day and up until that point. But I would be absolutely the worst at holding myself to that and allowing myself and giving myself that grace, you know? A lot of these things are easier said than done. Let's watch a video about PDA. So if you don't know, PDA is a profile of autism called pathological demand avoidance. The term was coined in the UK, but people still don't know an awful lot about it here. Medical professionals don't know an awful lot about autism, full stop. Never mind, you know, PDA. Even specialists in autism don't know an awful lot about PDA often. I have a video talking about the traits of PDA, which I'll leave linked on screen, and I also have a video where I go through a PDA test that you can do that was just created by other PDAs. It's not official, but it's based on a bit of research they did, which was super cool. Just another wonderful contribution from the autism community, which I am so grateful for. It's a profile of autism, stands for pathological demand avoidance, which is a pretty horrible name. Don't like the word pathological, get that out of there. Ew. Some people call it persistent drive for autonomy. I saw somebody say in a comment that they've been called pathologically independent before and they're not mad about it. That kind of fits too. Basically, we can feel trapped very easily. We can get a feeling like claustrophobia from like expectations, and it's kind of almost like having extreme performance anxiety about doing everyday tasks to the point where you don't want to do them. It can be quite closely linked to low self-esteem and perfectionism. Let's see what Paige has to say about PDA.
The comments in my last video, I'm not kidding, like almost every other comment. I now am pretty sure that I have a PDA profile along with this autism. I don't know anything for sure, but it's definitely something that I'm going to look more into. I'm just now learning about pathological demand avoidance and what it is, first time ever in my life. And it is basically what the title says it is. It's a pathological need to avoid demands. It's a profile of autism that usually, but not always, comes with a very high level of anxiety as well with these demands. From the very limited research I've done on this, it seems that the need to avoid demands comes from the anxiety of feeling out of control, feeling like there are plans, things that you have to do. And so the anxiety there isn't about the thing in specific, it's just the fact that there is a thing. It's just the idea of a demand that you're like, no, can't.
I feel like I crave freedom. Freedom to me has always sounded like one of the most like beautiful words ever. And I could never, from a very young age, could never fathom the idea of having a job. From a very young age, I have always dreamt of being freelance. It has the word free in it, or self-employed. That was always what I wanted to do.
When I was reading into it, especially how it appears in autistic children, it seemed to not be like me, at least behavior-wise. Usually in this case, the children will say no to their parents. They will be like, oh, I can't do it. My arms don't work. I cannot.
I said it at the beginning of my PDA video. It's kind of like ADHD, where like a little boy who's very disruptive and loud in the classroom is much more likely to be diagnosed than a girl who, you know, daydreams and taps a pen a bit, you know? It's kind of the same with PDA. Some people are going to internalize their feelings more and just kind of sit in that anxiety and let it slowly chip away at their mental health. And some people are going to outwardly have more meltdowns, etc., etc. My parents were very lenient, and my mom gave me a lot of freedom, kind of sometimes treated me more like a friend, and you know, she was still a responsible parent, but she had a strict upbringing herself and deliberately didn't want to do that, which was the perfect match for me when I came along. Thank you, whoever planned out that, because I ended up in the perfect place for me, really. So I wasn't really told I had to do things, but when I did, I often would have quite a big reaction at home to it, and would often kind of push things until they went the way that I felt like they needed to be. If I was told I had to do something at home though, I would definitely push back against it and I would not just accept it. But when I was at school, I very much just accepted things, was just like seen as like shy and quiet and just went along with things even though it hurt me inside, and then kind of just let out those emotions when I got home.
I cannot do the demands that you want. It can be very hard to get children with a PDA profile to do things. And I've always been a pretty well-behaved kid. I've always followed orders well from my parents or from teachers. But I think that's from masking, because I didn't follow and I still have a very hard time following demands that no one gives me. Demands that I have to give myself. I've always felt it inside me since I was a kid, and now reading about it, there's something in my heart that's like, yep, that's it, that's right, that's where we are. It just answers so many questions that couldn't be explained by like executive dysfunction or by just anxiety, social anxiety. Now I'm gonna hyperfixate on researching this disorder. Yeah.
I love that. Why am I keep getting emotional in videos at the moment? Yeah, when I first read about PDA, it's crazy, it's scary. Almost like the way that PDA write is almost like they use similar language to the language that I would choose to use. It's creepy. It's creepy to see people on the other side of the world who sound like you. Sometimes they even look like me and have like a similar style. And like, oh my gosh, it's just so weird and so fascinating. I find something difficult about reading about PDA over like just autism, ADHD. Like, I'm cool with that, I'm fine with that. PDA is like, it strikes a nerve because it is so like someone has read my mind, and it's just it hits hard sometimes, and in itself I think PDA to a PDAer feels a bit like a trap, and it kind of triggers, you know, your PDA, your fight or flight, because it's like, oh no, you can't do these things because you have PDA, you now have this label that means that you can't do certain things and you're always going to struggle with this, and it's like but at the same time it's also wonderful because you can understand yourself so much more and understand your triggers. Sometimes like I would get annoyed with people for asking me to do things that were just basic things that most people would be like, cool, that's fine, and I would find a way to blame them and make it their fault because I'd be like, well, it makes me feel this big feeling, so there must be a reason for that, they must be irrational. Whereas now I'm like, oh no, it's just a physiological response that my body has because of the way that my brain is wired. It's not their fault that that happens. I'm just gonna take a deep breath. I get by a lot of demands with my husband by being like, right, I just need to like say the F word to you and like tell you to F off and then I can do it. Like, is that okay? And then we can laugh and joke about it, and he knows. And everyone knew before, they knew kind of how to deal with me, and they love me, and I know that there are good things about my personality, not to big myself up too much. I know I'm not all bad, but there were certain things that they knew like I was a bit different about, that they maybe had to like, you know, work around. Now we understand it better than ever. We all understand. But yeah, it's a lot to take in when you first discover PDA, and it does feel a bit like, who's been reading my diary and can you please stop? I can totally see it in Paige, not to sound creepy. When I was watching Paige's videos, I don't think I ever thought PDA, but now it makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. I feel like she has an energy that reminds me of myself to some extent, but then also of relatives that I have as well. Welcome to the PDA fam, Paige. Welcome. And I hope that it'll help. I think to me, almost finding out about PDA was more helpful than autism in general. Like, obviously autism explains the sensory stuff, explains the social stuff. There's a lot of things that autism explains, but PDA is the thing that feels like it explains my existence.
I'm just figuring out that having a hard time reading menus is a PDA thing. I, no joke, wanted to come on TikTok, I wrote it down, and be like, does anyone else have a hard time with menus? Because why do I have such a hard time when I'm at a restaurant reading the menu and knowing what I want to eat? I never got it because I'm hyperlexic. Like, I read, but when I look at a menu, I can't get one word in. I'm like, nothing is getting in, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, it does eventually, and I go like, I guess I'll have the Brussels sprout soup or whatever the fuck.
Brussels sprout soup. I'm not having Brussels sprout soup. I hope that was ironic. I'm not gonna have that. Fart soup. Not for me.
After like everyone's already ordered and they already have appetizers and I still haven't decided. But the very essence of a menu is controlled. Couldn't figure it out. Now I figured it out. Nothing I can do about it, but Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. She's so right. Yeah. I think for me, it kind of feels like it's the demand that I have to choose. And you also have to choose under a time limit. And then everyone's watching you and everyone's waiting for your response. And like I say, to me, I think PDA feels almost like extreme performance anxiety kind of thing about doing things, and I think potentially could be linked to perfectionism of wanting to get things right, and like it kind of just sets for a bit of a panic response, like I have to choose, and yeah, suppose I have to choose and it has to be one of these things on this list. I'm sure a lot of people do this already, but like a good solution I think is to look up menus beforehand, before you go, make a decision when you're not super under pressure, because just from a social aspect as well, having to communicate with waiters, why is that so awkward? You know, it just is. And then obviously when you're at a restaurant with people, maybe you like talking, but everyone's also supposed to be reading and choosing what they want, but like talking at the same time and communicating, it's like, how are you supposed to do both those things at once? I don't think autistic people are always necessarily great at juggling doing multiple things at once like that. I don't know, choose it before and then you'll be okay. But yeah, I take quite a while to do things like that.
Hey, I'm Cheryl and I'm autistic. Being autistic is hard. Everyone preaches I should just be myself, but what if being myself is wrong? Being autistic means my brain works differently, and a lot of people aren't okay with that.
Yeah, I get that, like in the community, and we can be ourselves, we can speak to people like us, but then you're in this like nice neurodivergent bubble, and then you go out into the world, and it's like, oh yeah, we got a way to go here. This is not utopia.
Autistic people in the UK are still being sent hours away from their families to psychiatric wards for years on end. Family members are still filming their autistic child's meltdowns and posting them online. Research into curing autism and ABA therapy still exists and is highly supported.
Yeah, it's like, oh, can we have some more research into how to support us? Research that is actually helpful to us who are here and who are living and who exist, rather than trying to figure out ways we can maybe like stop us existing. Like maybe we can like stop trying to cure it and start trying to accept it, and then also help us a little bit. And obviously ABA therapy, applied behavior analysis is not great. It's like a bit like dog training, and it's like you get rewarded for being neurotypical. Watch videos of it, it's just so strange. It's like the least autism friendly thing ever. It's like the people doing it have never heard of autism and have no idea what autistic people are like and what autistic people typically like and dislike. It's very strange.
The saying, oh, well, everyone's a bit autistic, is still used by people daily. Autistic people are having to wait years to get assessed, then when diagnosed, have zero support.
I love that cat, and I love that little happy spin that she did. That was beautiful. 2 beautiful clips.
Because the services simply don't exist. Suicide is a leading cause of death in autistic people. Media outlets are promoting autism acceptance, whilst at the same time shaming self-diagnosis and discouraging the incredible autism awareness work created by autistic people on social media.
It's just a trend nowadays, and everybody's being diagnosed with autism, and they're all actually just snowflakes who don't know how to handle life and eat too much avocado on toast.
Companies believe 1 or 2 quiet hours a week are the solution to accessibility for autistic people in stores. If you're autistic, no matter your circumstances, you can't even move abroad to countries such as Australia and New Zealand.
I mentioned this in my video about like, I think I might be autistic, now what should I do kind of thing, when I was talking briefly about whether or not to go for an official diagnosis. I haven't looked super into New Zealand, and I could maybe do that and do a video about moving to different countries around the world. But as far as I know with Australia, you probably would be able to move to Australia with an autism diagnosis, but they would probably initially reject you. You'd fail their health assessment, so they would judge you as too expensive basically, because they would just blanket look at your condition. They wouldn't look at your individual case or anything like that. You'd be too expensive to the country, they would reject you, and then you would have to try and waive that. That would probably incur other fees. I suppose you might need a lawyer for that. I don't know how that would work. Probably would make the experience take longer and would be more expensive. But I think it is possible if you can prove that you're not going to be super expensive and you've not got very high support needs, which, you know, is not great, but may potentially be good news to some people out there who want to get a diagnosis but are thinking one day they might want to move. You will still, even if it's your partner who's like the main applicant who's going, like because of their career, they want to move countries, you or your children could still, if you fail the health assessment, none of you would be able to go. You would still have to do the whole health waiver thing, which is ridiculous, and they're probably losing so many amazing skilled people because they have children who are deemed as too expensive for the country, and it's not great. It's not great, and I'm really hoping that will change. I've always had the dream of maybe one day moving to a different country. It's something that I've thought about a lot throughout my life. I'm not sure how I feel about it now, but it was one of the things that made me question whether or not to get a diagnosis, and in the end I just felt like I want to fight it. I want to push back against it. If I am declined, I want to push back against it, because hopefully that would maybe help to bring about change. And if ultimately I can't move because they don't want autistic people in the country, then I don't want to be in your country. I need the diagnosis so I can get accommodation, so I can carry on studying, so that I can move forward with my life as myself, you know? So I wasn't gonna not get the official diagnosis for that reason. But it is a reason, if you feel like you definitely want to move, you know you want to move soon, you don't want to make it hard for yourself, it's perfectly valid then to just not get a diagnosis. You'd have to probably wait until you were like a citizen before I would even get a diagnosis, because you could potentially risk being deported otherwise, which is like not great at all. This is a reason why self-diagnosis is valid, because diagnosis can create barriers for us.
Why? Because being autistic doesn't meet good standards of health. Being autistic isn't poor health, it's just a natural variation in how people's brains work. I will continue to exist as an autistic person in this neurotypical world, a world where people still believe autistic people aren't good enough. A world which has an outdated view on autism and continues to want to erase it, instead of loving and accepting autistic people for the incredible people they are. Despite all of this, I still love and accept myself. I'm not afraid to show the world who I am, but do you accept me? No.
Oh, I accept you. I do accept you, Cheryl. You're accepted. Come back. Oh, I love all the clips of her skipping around and being really stimmy. Oh, she's great. She has a dyspraxia diagnosis as well, like me. I think that was great. I think she brought up some really great points, yeah. And it's just so funny to me that self-diagnosis isn't valid, because like most of the people who have an official diagnosis, like the people who are being diagnosed recently, they basically self-diagnosed. They discovered it themselves. They found out they were autistic probably thanks to social media. That was what prompted them to go to their GP, probably fight and argue with their GP about eye contact for a bit, then finally be referred and then be diagnosed. They were missed by the system. The system failed them. It's just ridiculous, you know? Basically they were self-diagnosed. They just got somebody to sign off on their research that they'd done at the end. Not everybody has the resources to get somebody to sign off on that. Like I say, who would be doing this much research if it didn't resonate with them? I agree. I'm very, very proud to be an autistic person and to be part of this community, and I'm so grateful for neurodivergent people on social media, and hopefully these videos are a celebration of that. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, I will put my playlist of me reacting to neurodivergent TikToks up on screen. Just thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Bye.